Wait, before we say busted Hondas, I'm not the biggest Honda guy, but I still have a place for those cars in my heart. I really do have a place for those Hondas. They still have a place in my heart for them, man. They're fantastic for what they are. They really are.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Use Apex 10 at checkout to save on fueling your passion. Because everyone thinks this is a Honda podcast, because it kind of is sometimes. We're going to talk Porsches today. And since I don't know anything about them, joining me, some people would accuse us of being cousins, maybe. Because, all Turks are, related to each other, at least in some way. At least that's what they think. He also trolls BMW owners as much as I would like to, which I really appreciate. President of Apex Automotive, John Cengiz, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Nice to meet you all. Appreciate you having me on this podcast today.
Yeah,
It's
man.
gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think it will be. I'm a noob, right? So my wife loves air-cooled Porsches, and we just say they're out of budget, okay? Like a clean air-cooled 911 is out of budget. So,
unfortunately, the market has shifted in the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, and the going joke was for years, a lot of people were like, we could buy one of these 15 years ago for $20,000, $25,000, an air-cooled Porsche, and they were pennies on the dollar. And then all of a sudden, the market just got insanely overpriced with them. People want them for nostalgia factor. People use them to trade money. They almost became like an art piece. And you can't touch a G-body or anything for anything less than 45, 50,000 miles in decent to mild condition, right?
Right.
If it's in really clean example, you're going to be spending north of $70,000 these days, which for a 30, 40-year-old car is just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, imagine trying to maintain it, and really, in the grand scheme of things, I could be speaking out of turn, but they're not the pinnacle of motorsports they're not the pinnacle that they were in their time. They were great in their heyday. When they came out, they were great cars. But today they're not.
They're fantastic platforms for their time, and even by today's standards, believe it or not, they hold their own. You could go to any track day or any competitive club race and get an air cool that's been modified for motorsport level racing, and believe it or not, they still keep up with modern day Porsches at a fair clip. They don't struggle at all.
Yeah.
So
we got the echo to kick in.
Lovely.
It's okay. It happens to the best of us. But the thing is, you're still trying to maintain a rare-ish 40-year-old car.
Is it still echoing? Sorry.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, it's echoing. Now it's not. I don't know what it is.
How about that?
Not from my end. Say something on your end.
Hello?
Yeah, it still echoes on your end. That's weird.
It's up to you. Do you want to start the podcast over on this one?
No, we can just figure out how to eliminate, and I'll clip it in the middle or early on. It's not a big deal. How do we get it to not echo? You have both speakers on somehow.
No, I have the other one muted, so you should not be hearing anything through the cell phone.
So the cell phone is just for the camera?
Yep.
Huh.
I just turned it off at this point. This way you just have me an audio and that's it. Nice and easy.
Okay. That's easy way to do it.
We'll just continue.
Okay. So these are 30 or 40-year-old cars you're trying to maintain, right? And you like you said, they're now considered art pieces, but I would feel, I don't know, I feel like it's an abuse of a car if you just let it sit, right? I would prefer to use it.
So that's a very loaded question there. Is it abuse of a car to let it sit? That is absolutely the truth. That happens to any of the older cars and modern, newer cars. The biggest thing you could do damage-wise to a car by trying to maintain that perfection is letting the car just sit there. The biggest problem that happens is you have corrosion buildup, you have joints that are not getting lubricated, you have seals, gaskets all over the car between the suspension, the engine, transmission. When they don't move and get hot and cold, when they don't get lubricated properly through regular use, they just become brittle. And the biggest analogy I could give you is imagine I tell you to sit in a chair and not move for a week, or make it a little bit longer time frame, say a month. You're not allowed to move at all. Mm-hmm. Your muscles are going to begin to atrophy. Your joints are going to become like stiff. And all of a sudden, I'm going to tell you to just get up and go for a marathon run. Mm-hmm. You're going to be in extreme pain. You're going to do some damage. You're going to hurt yourself. Same thing happens to a car. When you let the car sit for years on end, what's happening is, I'll start with the suspension. The suspension itself has these O-rings and seals internally, right? Mm-hmm. Those O-rings now basically flat spot and they sit in exactly one spot. They don't see oil. They're not moving back and forth against the cylinder itself or the piston shaft. And they get brittle. Now, all of a sudden you start driving it. Every time that rubber that dried up starts moving, it's creating micro tears in the rubber joint. And now you're going back and forth against this metal that has corrosion. It didn't get wiped clean every single time. It just sat there and got a little bit of micro levels of corrosion building up on the chrome surface. So you're just creating micro tears in this O-ring. And within, say, 100 to 1,000 miles, all of a sudden you have oil leaking out from your brand new shocks that only have 1,000 miles total on them. Very common issue. Same thing with the engine. You have timing chain covers. The head gaskets, everything else like that. When you just let these things just sit, things are going to begin to corrode. They do fail. Gaskets are going to leak over time. And it was also the other reason why you had the M96 motors with the IMS bearings. Same thing. They had these little plastic / hardened plastic type deal of a seal on the bearing surface, and people were not driving them, so they would just get brittle. They would not get oil soaked. And they would break, and then the grease within the bearing itself would just get washed away, and you're going to have the issues that you have with the IMS bearings.
So that's way over my head. So we're going to have to dumb this down for me. But before we get too deep into this, how did you get into cars, and where did Apex Automotive get started?
So I'm a classically trained mechanical engineer. Graduated from Stevens Tech back in 2011. During my tenure as an engineer in college, plus after I graduated, I accrued about 5 or 6 years of engineering experience working for military. Did some subcontracting work for companies. The company I worked for did subcontracting for NASA, Lockheed Martin. Worked on a nuclear power plant, some design components of it for the National Livermore reactor facility out in California. Worked at PSE&G, Public Service Gas over here for New Jersey, at the nuclear facility and the steam turbine side of things. So that's where the classical training of engineering came from. And since I was a kid, I've always had a severe love for anything motors. So if it was a jet ski, a motorcycle, dirt bike, a car, go-kart, that was just my jam. That was my thing. And I was into it since I was a kid. And then engineering really solidified that love.
So, but what took you down the Porsche, down that avenue?
So, sorry, I forgot to finish the rest of that. graduated college, went for a couple of years working as an engineer, and I would just not enjoy the typical scenario of what an engineer would do. Go to an office, sit in front of a cubicle or a computer in a cubicle all day long, and then have to answer to another individual and have the red tape and the bureaucracy of it all. And my current business partner, George, right at the time, he had the facility that his late father had left him, which is the building that we're in currently. I was just swinging by one summer afternoon, looking for an oil change on I think it was an Audi S4 at the time. And one conversation led to another. And I was like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of working as an engineer for someone else. Let's do something fun. Let's do something cool with this. We have a great facility. We have the knowledge. We have the tools. We have our brains in our hands. Let's make something unique out of it. And we decided to open up the business as a repair facility and grow it into the performance facility that it is today. Now, why we chose Porsche of all the major marques, we did a quick little study, and we looked for what was going to be the car enthusiast that we wanted to work with. Was it the high-end supercar individual that wants to buy the car and just let the car sit in their garage and look pretty? Or do we want someone that wants to clean the car on a Sunday, but on a Friday and Saturday, take it to the racetrack, enjoy the car, not just look at it and say, I have a Porsche, but something that they're going to want to actually drive and be interactive with. So that was the client base that we were seeking, and Porsche answered that. Of all the brands, they were the most interactive with the racetrack.
Yeah, I would agree. There's plenty of them when you go to the racetrack, right? But it's all generations. I race with NASA, so the one I see the most is the Porsche 944, which is not what I would say is the performance-oriented car. But what are your thoughts on the 944 and some of the more, what I would call an extreme budget Porsche?
We still call that car, not used to. We call that car the lead sled. Yeah. For its time, I remember the 944 S2s and the turbos were, I think, even faster than 911 turbos of their era. Fantastic performance car, really great balance. Porsche did a fantastic job, even though it was a front engine car, that it had a nice 50-50 weight split statically and in dynamic conditions. You really could get that car to dance around the corner. It accelerated great. And a lot of guys were taking that car, they were modifying them between the suspension, the turbochargers, the power, the interior, and they were really making those cars boogie. Fantastic platform to play with, great budget Porsche to get your feet wet with, entry level, and just, get into it all. But the problem with the 944 today, the market for them is diminishing. The parts are becoming a lot more scarce. Repairs are much more difficult because a lot of individuals just don't know how to work on that particular generation or that car anymore. So I've almost gone to the point where it's like, you may be better off getting into an entry-level Cayman or a Boxer, a spec Boxer, to get your feet wet and be a little bit more conscientious with, modernization and keeping up with the times.
Yeah, so that's what I was looking at. I was looking at these budget-conscious Porsches, and I saw the 944s, and I'm like, yeah, man, they're long in the tooth, right? They've been made, I don't know when they stopped making them exactly, but I've heard
like 91, 92.
Yeah.
Yep, 91, 92.
I've heard that guys are like, the guys who still race them are hoarding engines, things like that, because it's just getting so hard to get your hands on stuff. But then I started looking around, and the 986 Boxer was pretty cheap. I mean, like $10,000-$15,000 can get you into one if you wanted one. I don't know what your opinion is on them. And then I saw Cayman bases for $20K. That's pretty decent.
Fantastic platform, like I said, to get yourself into one. Obviously, the Boxer was a little bit less powerful. The Cayman S came out with the bigger motor. But you had to decide, what was your goal for the car? Is it just your weekend warrior that you want to go on the racetrack, tool around, have a good time? Or did you want to get into spec Boxster racing? Did you want to get into the GTB1 Cayman spec racing? What was your end goal that you're looking to do? That was one of the biggest questions that I always pose all my clients that ask me that question. What is your end goal? What are you looking to get out of the car? But if you want to just enter just for pennies on the dollar in comparison to some of these guys that are getting 992 GT3 RSs on the track, yes, you could get a 986 Boxster or Boxster S or a Cayman S and just get out there for sub 20K, put some brakes, some safety equipment, and rock out.
So, who do you recommend the Boxster for, and who do you recommend a Cayman for? Because they're not exactly the same.
Can you pose that question a little bit more intricately? When you say for who, like, what do you mean by that?
So what type of person or what situation does the Boxster shine versus where does the Cayman shine? As a, like, is one a better dual purpose car, like weekend cruiser, track day, or, you know, one's more dedicated or of a track car? Because when you say you're recommending, or you pose this question to people and they tell you what their use case is, what's the best use case for the Boxster? What's the best use case for the Cayman?
When it comes to use cases, Boxster versus Cayman, the biggest question always becomes, are you looking to get a roadster in your life? If you want a convertible top roadster, but you still want to be able to go to the racetrack and have a fairly good performance vehicle, so to speak, the Boxster S answers that question. You could take that out, take your significant other, summertime, fall time, drop the top, have your Starbucks in your hand, go through the country roads and really enjoy the car. And at the same time, you could still go to a weekend track day and go on the racetrack through 4 or 5 sessions, whatever it's going to be, and you're going to really enjoy the car. Whereas the Cayman is more your classic coupe. It's your 2-door, 2-seater. It's obviously more rigid. It is a full coupe. It has a roof, right, which adds a level of rigidity to the chassis. And it's got that sexiness that a sports car should have, but you still could go to the racetrack and it's going to perform really beautifully as well. So the question in those two is, are you looking for a roadster or not? That's what it comes down to.
Okay, that's fair. When do you start talking people into like a 996, 911? Because they're more expensive, but not obtusely expensive.
I typically recommend people to shy away from 996s and 997s, and same goes for the Cayman 987 if they're going to be going on to serious driving on the track. And the biggest reason is they have a lot of problems with the engines where if you're going to go through, I'll use it, Watkins Glen for an example. If you're going to do a track which is high G loading and you're going to be putting more serious suspension on the car, more serious tires on the car, which are going to have long drawn out S's where there's going to be a lot of G loading, the oil is going to starve in the engine itself and it's going to destroy itself. I can't tell you how many times I've been to track days where people go up the S's at Watkins Glen, they're going through the corner and the car has to get towed back in because the motor literally destroyed itself. Very common issue. So I typically try to steer people away from those two generations if they're going to be a serious track driver and they're going to be seriously modifying the car. But if they just want to get onto the track, they want a budget-friendly 911 or a Cayman. If you're in the sub-30s category as far as price, go for it. It's a fantastic car. Just don't go too crazy with the tires and suspension. Otherwise, be prepared to spend some serious coin on the modifications that the engine needs.
So they're having oiling issues due to the G load.
Yes.
Okay.
So what'll happen is the oil will literally slosh around and it'll start picking up air right from the pickup tube, and the rod end cap will overheat and literally just let go. Okay. And then you have a beautiful window mod through the side of the block.
It just needed to breathe a little better. That's all.
Hey man, it's trying to get free turbocharging, you know.
So, the Boxster would be your roadster. The Cayman would be a very easily entry level coupe. What's the progression? What's the I don't know, what's the car to have but not go GT4, GT3 off the break?
Oof, that is a very, very tough. For track driving or just to enjoy on your Sunday drive?
Let's keep it to the track, because we're all hooligans at heart and we'll end up taking it on a Sunday drive anyway if the plate's still good on it. At least my friends would. So,
all right. If you have in the neighborhood of say $40,000 to $60,000 and you want to go to the racetrack and not spend GT4 or GT3 money, my go-to car is the 981 Cayman S, Cayman or Cayman S, whichever one you want to get. Obviously, the Cayman S has the more bells and whistles. It's got the better suspension, better engine. It's got the bigger displacement, way more power. That's just my go-to. The chassis is beautifully set up, mid-engine. It's modern. It's got the upgraded electric steering. Some people prefer the hydraulic, but I've come to love the electric steering that car has, actually. The suspension is fantastic. It lets you do things on the racetrack that a car should not let you do. And you really have to screw up for that car to bite you. Like, you really have to push it to its limits. And you don't need to do much either to the car. It's out the factory box. Throw brake pads, maybe some rotors at it, a decent set of tires, and go to the track, have at it, go nuts. And you still could take that car out throughout the week or the weekend, go to watch your favorite movie at your local movie theater, take out your significant other, go bowling, whatever the case might be, right? It checks a lot of boxes. It really does.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, and it really, in the grand scheme of things, at $40,000 to $60,000, I mean, it's used, right? But if you look at the new cars in that category, or even used cars in that category, it seems pretty potent.
Potent would be an understatement with that particular chassis. That car, for its capability, with minor modifications, will keep up with GT4s in the hands of a good driver. And it'll be nipping at the heels of a GT3.
Okay.
It really will. Like, you really have to drive the GT3 to the top 9/10 or better to run away from the Cayman. It's a really fantastic car.
Oh, okay. So you've now talked the Honda kid into looking into Caymans. Okay. We're going to skip. I learned from my brother, there's no way I'm getting an Audi S4. So I'm skipping that step in my life. I'm going to go from my busted Hondas to a Cayman. Okay.
Wait, before we say busted Hondas, I'm not the biggest Honda guy, but I still have a place for those cars in my heart. I really do have a place for those Hondas. They still have a place in my heart for them, man. They're fantastic for what they are. They really are.
They are.
So don't say busted.
Well, I mean, sometimes they are busted. In every country that I've ever been to, you can find the Ricer Honda. That's where they are. They are all the same. It's hilarious. So,
I mean, hey, I grew up in North Jersey. I'm not going to say particularly which cities, but yeah, that was an average Saturday, Sunday car that we saw the old school CRXs, the Integra Type Rs, the D Series, K Series, B Series motors. I saw them all, and yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So
when I'm looking for a Cayman, what should I be looking at?
The first question that you're going to need to pose yourself is, do you want to be a classic car enthusiast that wants a manual transmission, or do you want to do a more modern take on double clutch, which is a PDK transmission that comes in these cars? The PDK is absolutely astounding for the technology that it is. Really fast shifting. The computer basically does everything for you if you decide not to use the paddles. It's robust. It takes the abuse and just keeps begging for more. The only thing that the PDKs have a small issue with that we're coming more across of is the internal electronic sensors. But outside of that, the PDK really performs absolutely well. So the first question you need to ask is manual or automatic? What are you sticking with? That's your first question that you need to ask.
Okay. I, I'm kind of torn, right? I've never driven a PDK car, so it intrigues me because I hear nothing but good things about it, right? So, especially on track. But three pedals has been my entire life. I mean, outside of my truck, I don't really own a automatic. So
You're going to laugh. My daily driver, I have my track weapons, but my daily driver is a diesel Passat, and even that thing's a 3-pedal car. And I know what you mean. You're preaching to the choir right here.
yeah. So, okay. So let's say I pick a PDK because I think I have bushy friends that would pick it. So we're going to go with the PDK. What are we looking at when we go look at this car, say by ourselves? Because, we're track guys. We know everything. So, but what do we actually need to know when we go look at these cars?
Biggest thing I'd be looking for is trying to get that car onto a lift. You do want to go through the suspension. You do want to make sure that the ball joints are in good condition. The control arms are not cheap to replace, or any of the suspension joints. You want to see if the car is leaking any oils, any fluids, anything obvious. It's all pretty open, and as far as it came in, you just take a flashlight, you can peek your head in underneath the engine, and you'll see a lot of it. The suspension itself, which we spoke, make sure there's no joints that are loose. Make sure the brakes and tires are good. If you don't care about spending money for consumables and want to upgrade that later, that's not the end of the world. Outside of that, the car is fairly robust. There's not really much to look for. The only other thing you might need to do, well, in the case of a PDK, if it was a manual, I'd say you need to scan the car to make sure that you don't have over revs. But with a PDK, there's not really much to do unless it's a very high mileage car, and that's when you just look for compression leak down numbers on the motor. Outside of that, like we've seen cars with 100,000 miles on them that go to the track, and the cars just keep going. There's not really much to them.
Yeah. So you guys specialize in Porsches. Do you do like pre-purchase checks at Apex, or I know there's other shops. It's not like I'm going to drive to Jersey if I go buy one, but if I'm in Jersey, could I bring my car, the potential car, to you guys to check out?
Yes. So pre-purchase inspection for the purposes of buying the car, we're doing a little bit more in-depth than just looking at the suspension and a couple little things. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing that we're looking for is we're looking for cases of accident repair. A lot of people will get into an accident with these cars and they will not report it because they don't want to take the hit on the Carfax. So they'll pay out of pocket, get the car to be repaired. So we're looking for paint depth metering. We're looking to see if there's any Bondo work. We're looking for body lines. We're looking for mileage rollback. On the Cayman, it's not so pronounced, but on the more higher level Porsches or Ferraris or any of the other supercar brands, a lot of guys will put in mileage blockers, and the odometer will read maybe 8,000, maybe 10,000 miles, but you look on the interior of the vehicle and you're like, this car has at least 50 to 70,000 miles. What's going on here? We'll look for rollback. And then again, we'll just look through the basic overall vehicle status. Is there any broken car parts on the bottom subframes? We're looking at the suspension joints, looking at the engine. We're going to take the car for a quick drive, see if the car makes the power that it should. If you want to pay extra, we could throw the car onto the dyno. We'll tell you the condition of the motor that way as well. Drive it around, see if the transmission's shifting properly. So just a run-of-the-mill inspection, and we're just looking to see if the car was abused and if it was maintained properly and if it was in that car accident.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's stuff that most people aren't going to be able to do, right? And you show up in somebody's house or whatever. I doubt this. I'm a hood rat Honda kid, so we buy our cars in parking lots, right? But I doubt you're doing a Porsche transaction in a parking lot. But, it's not what the average person is looking for. Some of us, we know we need to go look for signs of accidents and things, or signs of floods, right? Where is the dirt? Is a mud line in the car, underneath the car somewhere? I mean, some of us know to look for that, but I think especially if you're a noob like me and you're stepping into this world, which I'm not, but maybe, who knows? I can hear the guys I race with. Oh, he's so rich. He's already looking at Porsches, but they just love to point that finger at me. Like anyway, but I'm not looking. But people could be, there's plenty of folks that listen to this podcast that could be like, all right, I'm still going to race my clapped out Honda, but I'd like a nicer street car. So
my rule of thumb is this when it comes to any one of those cars. It doesn't matter the mark, doesn't matter the model. If the car is at a budget where you cannot just say, screw it, the car was a lemon, I bought it, I'll just get rid of it and I don't care, or I could eat the repairs on it, you typically want to get a PPI. The people that I recommend PPIs to, however, is typically when the car is $25,000 or more in a used car category. What's an average PPI these days cost? At least $250 to $350 for an entry-level PPI, right? So you got to do your cost analysis to see you're going to make that investment into a vehicle. Obviously, you're not going to do PPI on a $1,500 car, but if it's a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 car, I do usually recommend it, especially if it's a higher brand like a Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever the case might be. Last thing you want to do is buy a vehicle and get stuck repairing it to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars because you missed something very simple.
Yeah. Yeah, the pre-purchase inspection is, if you're going to, especially if you're rolling in cash and you're going to buy something like this in cash, just get it done. It's part of it, right? I'm learning the hard way with my truck. I should have bought my truck and then taken it and had the chassis sealed up because the frame is, 200,000 miles later, it's a little rusty, So I should have done this a long time ago instead of getting work done on the back end. So get your work done before you buy it so you don't have this issue. But
I completely agree. One other warning I'd like to give your viewers, be very cautious buying one of these vehicles from a secondhand dealer. So I'm not going to be very specific, but let's just say in the PPIs that we've done, the couple horror stories that we saved our clients was very high pressure sales situations from these dealerships where they're trying to push, hey, you got to get this car. We have 5 other guys looking at it. We're about to close a sale if you don't. We want to make this thing get onto a transport truck by the end of 2 days. Are you interested? Yes or no? Move it along. And they'll do a high pressure sales pitch to get you to close on the car just because they know there's something typically wrong with the vehicle and they're just trying to push it along. And once you sign the documents, unless there's a warranty or some sort of a return policy explicitly said or stated in the contract, you're stuck with that vehicle. It is as is. And I'll just use 2 examples. One was a Porsche and one was a Mercedes SLS, the one with the gull wing doors. The particular Mercedes, it came to us, the dealership in question said the car had no work. The car was absolutely mint, never been in an accident, the low mileage, the whole 9 yards. The gentleman was out of California, so he hired us to do the PPI. We took a look at it. The entire right side of the car had been repainted. We found Bondo on almost every single panel on the right side of the vehicle. We found that the mileage was rolled back, and we saved that gentleman, I think, $200,000 on a, pardon my French, an absolute shitbox. And then there was another case with a Porsche 911, same situation, high pressure sales pitch. The guy wanted to get the car, picked up the transporter on that Friday. He was ready to rock and roll, but he just wanted a second pair of eyes local to take a look at the car. The front trunk area on the bottom had been caved in like someone went off-roading with the vehicle and went and hit a boulder with the thing. The rear subframe had cracks in it, bends in it. Control arms had massive scratches in it. The rear right quarter panel and the bumper had been repainted. But in the photos, what was even presented to us to take a look at initial, the car looked absolutely immaculate. Everything looked perfect. We actually get the car in person. We're like, what in the world happened to this poor thing? It looked like a bastardized child that belonged in the junkyard at that point. So, yeah.
They did the Instagram filters on it, and then they saved it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's just if you're buying an expensive car that you're kind of stretching your budget out on, or it's, a big purchase for you, do yourself the favor. If you can't physically see the car yourself, pay a competent shop that has a really good PPI program. And they could tell you before you pay for the PPI what they're looking for, what the report is going to have. make sure that they include pictures, whether the car is in good condition or bad, not just a quick little piece of paper that's going to say, hey, we found a control arm bad or a tire bad. Let them tell you the tire date codes, condition of the brakes, tires, pictures of the entire car, so you know exactly what you're buying. Let them be your eyes and ears without you being there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're paying for, right? So, yeah. And even some people's PPIs aren't that great, right? Like you said, they're not going to have, some won't have pictures. You want to look for the most information you're going to get when you're doing this type of stuff. My dad was looking for I don't know, the Ford version of the Sprinter van. Okay. And I know these secondhand dealers you're talking about. The guy was like, oh, these are really hard to find. They were. He wanted like the 15 passenger high roof. Like, it's not easy to find. It wasn't, at least as a couple of years ago. And the guy was like, there's a couple people looking, yada, yada, yada. I crawl under this thing. In the back bumper, they replaced the outer skin, but the rest of it was caved in. And I was like, let me see that Carfax again. I was like, yeah, this is wrong.
Exactly.
I was like, go look under there and let me know what you think. And then my dad, who was, the reason he brought me was because he's susceptible to this stuff, is still like, well, it's not that bad, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, but if they're lying about that, what else are they covering up? Or if they didn't notice that, what else did they not notice? Instead of calling somebody a liar about it. Just, the history of this car is not what it seems to be. So we should just find something else. So they're out there, man. And I can only imagine, because this dealership had two of the Gullwing Mercedes. It had like the Lambo SUV. They had all sorts of stuff, Tesla Model S's laying around. I mean, they were trying to push stuff, big money stuff. So
it's interesting that you just mentioned, that this dealership had some really cool cars and some unique stuff that you would only typically see in car shows or on the internet, right? That's another thing I'm going to recommend to your viewers or listeners. Just because a shop is working on a number of good or high-level cars does not mean that they're competent. I can't tell you how many times we've come across situations where a quote-unquote race shop or a performance shop or a shop that knows what they're doing will take on a vehicle to do modifications, and then the client will end up leaving very unsatisfied with the result of the work or the modification, and then we end up taking it apart only to find backyard mechanic type of workmanship, and it's really disappointing. It makes my life in one way better because I get to shine, but at the same time, for the industry as a whole, it's like, guys, what are you doing? You're charging all this money. Provide the workmanship that you're charging for.
Yeah, and when you're looking at these high dollar cars, just because there's other high dollar cars in the same showroom, in the shop, whatever, talk to these people. If it smells, it smells. Don't fall for the stuff, because you don't want the headache. You want to enjoy the car, right? Like that's what we do. We enjoy these things, right? Whether you shine it and go to Cars and Coffee, whether you take it to the track, whether you do all of it, you movie night, whatever you're doing with it, you want to enjoy it, not leave it in the shop. So, but you're right. It's hard on the industry when those people do that.
You got that right. And yeah, you're putting a lot of work, tears, sweat, energy into whatever line of work you're doing to make money. Mm-hmm. You want that money to be invested into something that's going to not be a headache in your life. You want it to be, a fun toy in your life, which is going to give you smiles, not dreadful nightmares.
So let's hypothetically say I pick up, the Cayman. What is the order of operation to make my budget performance Porsche gobble up the GT3s and GT4s?
So as a shop, I have one set of instructions. As a race coach, I have another set of instructions. Which one do you want to hear?
Let's go with race coach first, because it's probably going to be like seat time. But
so race coach wise, if you're going to modify like throw money at the car, the very first thing you should be doing to the vehicle is not a single performance thing at all. It should be safety equipment, safety equipment, safety equipment. Your harnesses, roll cage, roll bar, whatever you want to put into it, a proper 6-point harness seat. Just for the simple fact of, look, the racetrack does not know that it's a track day or a full-fledged race. When you hit the wall doing 90 miles an hour, you're hitting the wall doing 90 miles an hour. And unfortunately, I've been passenger to a couple accidents now in various racetracks. And having that equipment really makes a difference. It makes all the difference in the world, actually, where the cars got absolutely destroyed and I walked away scratch-free, not even a bruise on me. So biggest thing I could say. Second thing as a race coach is seat time, as you said. Get a volunteer coach, get a paid coach, whatever you feel comfortable with. Get someone that is knowledgeable in how to drive the car and knowledgeable on how to instruct you and have good chemistry with you to relay that information in live, real time on a racetrack in your right seat to really get you to drive the car. Just because you're getting onto a racetrack and you're doing, say, 5 or 10 events a year, if you don't have a racing coach in the car with you, you're really not learning. You're just doing the wrong mistakes over and over and thinking you're getting better, but you're really not.
Yeah, I'm big. I spent time as a chief of tech for NASA Mid Atlantic, so I'm big on the safety stuff. And it doesn't take much horsepower to go fast on the track. How much are the Caymans making, horsepower wise?
Average Cayman S with basic bolt-ons, you're making about 300 wheel on the Mustang dyno. So it's a fairly potent car.
Yeah, that's plenty. I drive a 200 horsepower tin top Honda, right? It's like an aluminum can with 200 horsepower. I don't know if I could take it on the track without at least a roll bar, seats, and harness in it. When you add horsepower and then you add, I run a 245 tire. What's a Cayman run? What tire comes on a Cayman,
Stock is 245s in the front and 265s in the rear.
So it's got plenty of tire. It's got plenty of power. It's probably best to be secure. Plus the G load that you're going to take, you need that. You want that seat and the harness to dial you into the car. So
I wholeheartedly agree with you. The seat equipment is one of the biggest things I always recommend to people. Before more horsepower, before more suspension and anything else.
Are there, this is the nerd in me, are there seats that don't generally fit in the Caymans?
The only seats that I've had to kind of modify to fit into a Cayman would be something like a pole position XL, the really big ones.
Okay.
So if you're someone that's like 6'4", 250 pounds, big boy, that's going to be the seat that you're going to need, and you're going to kind of have a little bit of a struggle fitting that into the Cayman, but it's not impossible. There are ways to do it.
Yeah, I have a Sawbelt. I think it's the GT. It's the Sawbelt GT pad, I think. It's a huge seat. The shell is huge. And it's one shell fits all. If you order a medium, they put big pads in it. If you order the XL, they put thin little pads in it. It was a struggle to get in my Civic, which is it's huge when we sit in it. So I was just wondering if there were things people need to be conscious of when they look at seats. Because, somehow they stuff these seats in Miatas. I don't know how they get all these seats in Miatas, but in other cars, it seems to be a challenge.
We use a beautiful big old shoehorn, my friend. It's a trade secret.
Well, and everybody cuts the floor and does the drop floor stuff now. But
well, yeah, exactly. No, but believe it or not, the Cayman actually has a really nice, spacious interior. You could fit a lot of seat into it, and not really run into much problem.
Okay, and so because I'm a hoodlum, I want performance stuff in shiny bits. what do we tackle first when I want to modify the car? Because I have restless hands in between, coaching and track events.
So this comes now to the other side of the coin, which is what I said as a race shop. What would I recommend first? The very first thing I'm going to recommend is a good set of track pads and track rotors. That's going to be the very first, and good tires. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the very first thing I recommend before you do coilovers, headers, intake systems, whatever else, control arms that you could come up with to start modifying the suspension geometry. The brakes are the very first thing that I recommend always.
It's almost an extension of the safety stuff. You got to be able to stop the car, and you want it to be able to take all the abuse it can take, right? All the heat, all the repetitive braking. You want it all to be able to eat that. So I get it. So the brakes actually answer two questions for me. Not only is it the extension of the safety, so we're going to be able to make sure that we could stop the vehicle when we're doing a front straight of 135 miles an hour, but the brakes are where you make up the most amount of lap time. If that makes sense to you, think of it like this. Where are you covering the most amount of distance on a racetrack? It's at the very end of a front straight, or any straight for that matter, right before you brake. So your delta, or amount of time that you're going to cover, amount of distance that you're going to cover in the shortest amount of time, is when you're traveling the fastest. If you have better brakes, you're going to be able to stop later, and you're going to have a higher speed at the end of a straight somewhere. And that's where typically my lap time differences from every other driver as it gets made is in the brake zone. That's where I catch almost everyone if I'm going to catch someone. It's not in the corner, not in the acceleration zone. It is literally in the brake zone. I'm going to brake 50 feet later than you, and I'm going to carry more speed to the apex and through the apex of a corner. That's where I catch everyone, and that's where I make up all my lap time differences. I mean, that it's a big thing, right? So, there's tracks that I go to where 1 mile an hour is huge on your lap time. So if you can extend your initiation of braking enough to gain 1 more mile an hour, it turns into a lot of time. So.
Oh, absolutely. Like a track like Lime Rock Park in Connecticut, even half a mile per hour at that track is going to be a world of difference.
Yeah, for sure. So are the racers actually still running on, they got to be on Motons or something crazy, right? They're not using stock suspension on these things forever.
No, if you're an advanced level driver to a professional level driver, like a pro driver, you're going to be on some sort of a MCS, Moton, JRZ, AST suspension. You're going to be on an aftermarket control arm where we're fixing the roll center adjustments by lowering the car. We're going to have camber adjustments with shims. We're going to be changing caster angles. We're going to have all these suspension joints to really optimize what the tire is doing through a corner and in a straight line. We're going to have way more aggressive alignment specs between camber, caster, toe adjustments. There's a bunch of components that you're going to be throwing at this car. We're nowhere near the stock levels at these points.
So the way you're talking, it seems like if you put coilovers on, that's one thing. But if you go low, you're with your coilovers or aggressive, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like an all or nothing, right? You're going to need to do a bunch of corrections, and you're going to need to fully commit when you do it, right?
So without going too technical into the engineering of it, a lot of times I'll see shops or people get these Bilstein coilovers, Olin coilovers, and then they will set the coilover to the absolute lowest ride height that they could get because they see professional race cars glued to the ground. But they won't adjust for roll center adjustments or center of gravity adjustments, right? What'll happen is you're actually counteracting the physics of the car. The car, when I'll use a very basic example, you're stepping on the gas, you're transferring the weight to the back of the car to get more traction in the rear, but the car now is experiencing something called jacking, where the car's physics is physically pushing the car back up. So because of that, instead of, say, transferring 70% of the weight to the rear tires to get traction, you're only in reality transferring maybe 30% to the rear tires. So the back end feels very sloppy, very uneasy. It doesn't give you confidence to go through the corner at speed. And that's just one small little example in the array of variables that we play with when we do suspension geometry.
Oh yeah, we're well aware, even with our little crappy Hondas. Like, the internet says run your 8th gen Civic super low. Now, in the grand scheme of things, my car looks super low. Okay, but my car didn't start handling properly until I started lifting the car, raising the car up, and then it stopped pushing. It would be very loose it would oversteer on cold tires, and it would plow like it was clearing the New York snow in the wintertime when the tires heated up. And the geometry issues that each chassis has is, I mean, there's only one way to do it, and that's to get in there and start measuring. There's no shops doing 8th gen specific Civic stuff. So, but
well, if you go to any decent shop that knows what they're doing, when I say decent, someone that knows how to measure camber delta from static position to dynamic position, toe position, and the Ackerman angles and things like that, I'm sure they could figure out an 8th gen Civic for you in a couple hours. It's not the end of the world, right? It's just a matter of finding the right person to do it, I guess.
Oh, they tell me, go do this, right? That's fine. I'll do it. It's not a problem. But in the Porsche world, there's shops like yours where they can go, okay, this is what my car is doing. And then you can evaluate the car and go, oh, it's too far this way, or this isn't corrected and it needs to be, and give them an easier answer.
Well, yeah, without a doubt, experience is definitely a paramount needed variable, right? If I just know the chassis when I work on the 911s, the GT3 Cups, and the Caymans and everything, having done a couple hundred of them in a year, it gives me that extra edge instead of me having to experiment and figure it out. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, is there anything else I need to know about the Cayman?
In what way?
If I'm buying it, if I'm going to track it, are there any tricks, any major considerations we need to make with the car that we haven't covered already?
You want to get something that's going to have, in the Porsche particularly Cayman world, you want to want certain bells and whistles that the car comes with the factory, right? You want to get the car with the Porsche Sports exhaust. It's probably one of the best sounding factory exhausts on the market, especially in the Porsche world. All you need to do is throw race headers from Soul Performance or any of the other major brands on there. Shout out to Soul. And the car sounds fantastic. It has a beautiful tone to it. It's throaty, it's loud, but quiet when you want it to be. It doesn't sound raspy. It's like the perfect harmony of sounds. That's one. The next thing is, if you could get a GTS model or an S model with the center radiator option that's already done, even better. You're going to save a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of headache in having to put the third radiator in for your car for extra cooling. It'd be nice to get a car with the sports chrono package. Not so much for the chronograph like the earlier Porsches have, which was a gimmick, but the sports chrono package on the later Porsches, the modules, when you hit the Sports Plus mode, it literally tells the modules to be a little bit looser with the yaw rates that the car is going to experience. It's going to let the traction control allow you to do more with the car before it becomes intrusive. The power, it's going to change the engine tune and the transmission tune. It's going to shift later. It's going to allow you to use more of the engine power itself. It's going to have a different tune itself. And that's without even us beginning to tune the car aftermarket in the aftermarket world, right? So those are small little things that I would always opt for. And then there's other things like PASM suspension or the X73 suspension if you want to go wild. If the car has all these, you're going to be saving so much money because you're not going to need to modify the car until you become a very advanced driver, where you're going to need the motorsport level components.
Okay. That's good to know, right? There's options that we should be looking for. That way we're not spending or respending money on it. So let somebody else eat some of that cost. So
Absolutely. Completely agree with that.
John, where can everyone find you and Apex Automotive?
You can find us on Instagram. Our Instagram name is Apex Autowerks with an E. Or you could go online and go right to our website, www.apexautowerks.com. Or reach out to us through one of the social media channels. And we're always here to help out in any way we can.
Awesome, my man. I really appreciate you coming on, talking Porsches, specifically this Cayman setup. It seems like a steal almost in the automotive world. I hate to break it to people. Hopefully it doesn't run away before I can get my hands on one, but
Without going into all the crazy marks, just for track driving and being able to enjoy the 987.2 Cayman, the 981 Cayman, the E46 M3, Mazda Miata, those were always the big 3-4 cars that I would consider if I'm going to go on the track, wanted to have my fun, and depending on what budget I wanted to spend in, I could have a really good time on the track or on the street. Those were the 4 cars that I always considered. I'm sure there's a couple more cars I could think about. There's the Honda S2000. I'm not a fan of that car as far as track driving, as some people know with the video I posted. But with some good amount of modification and setup, the car is actually a pretty good track car, just to tool around. Then there's really not much more that I would consider if I'm going to be doing a dedicated track car outside of that.
Yeah, it's a short list in the rear wheel drive world. Anyway.
But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, man.
My pleasure. And hopefully I'll see you again on one of these channels, and we could do another one of these.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're always welcome, my man.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.